Next, Haydenville, a company town with a distinctive look.
Then, how did Little Oklahoma end up in Ohio?
And Curious C-Bus investigates a viewer's question about the origins of Minerva Park.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by
At American Electric Power, we've been proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media for many years and strong supporters of our headquarters city here in Columbus, both downtown and in neighborhoods like yours.
State Auto Insurance Companies, transforming to become a digital provider of auto, home, and business insurance. And for nearly 100 years, committed to the people and neighborhoods of Central Ohio. State Auto. The Columbus Foundation. Smart philanthropy for a smart city. ColumbusFoundation.org. Bailey Cavalieri. Your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. CODA. Keeps our community moving forward. Falgren Moortime Marketing and Communications. Think wider. Ohio Health focuses on you and your family with a mission to improve the health of our communities. Women in Philanthropy at Ohio State, changing lives by giving together. And by contributions from these and other Columbus area families who support WOSU. Thank you.
Columbus is surrounded by dozens of small towns, and each has its own history. But Haydenville has a unique history and a distinctive look.
And that's all because of coal, clay, and a tireless entrepreneur named Peter Hayden.
Peter Hayden was this rather remarkable individual from New York. He started out when he was about 19 years old and signed a contract with the Auburn Penitentiary for inmate labor. And what he did is he created a saddlery within the walls of the prison, using the inmates to create the hardware for the saddles. And he also made hand tools. He did that for about 9 years or so, and for some reason he decided to come to Columbus. He struck a deal with the Ohio Penitentiary to use inmate labor to create another saddlery and another company making hand tools. At some point, he decided he needed coal, and he was drawn to this area.
We had the iron ore, we had coal, there was salt down here, sandstone, all this that they needed elsewhere.
Hayden was fortunate in that he arrived just as the canal system was unfolding across Ohio. The feeder canal to Columbus was completed in 1831 and started extending this way, reaching down to, through Nelsonville to Athens.
Yeah. I'm amazed at how square they are. This canal ran from about 1836. There was about 30 years. It's about all they got out of the canals. Then it was replaced by the trains.
Haydenville is one of the little cities of black diamonds, and they were called that because they were developed around coal mining. Coal was discovered in the Hocking Valley as early as 1755.
The interesting thing about when he came here and found the coal was he also found really rich deposits of clay.
It was in 1883 that Peter Hayden founded the Haydenville Mining and Manufacturing Company to take advantage of the clay that was here. And they used the clay for bricks, for silo tile, for conduit, anything that you could make out of clay they made here. They even made umbrella stands.
Work in a tile factory would be very hard, very hot labor. It would be sweaty. You would be on a team with a lot of people doing very, very manual work.
The plant had up to 360 people at one time working for them. Some worked in coal mines, some worked in the clay mines, some worked on the railroad and in the factory, in the kilns. And there'd be somebody standing there shoveling coal in that thing all day.
The thing about having this manufacturing operation here is that you needed housing for your people. And he had this idea of creating a model community, and he ended up building all these houses out of products that came out of his plant. They're built out of brick, tile, sewer pipes.
Being in a company town means everything is owned by the company. The community, the homes, all your needs are met by the company.
So in a company town, since the company owns the land and owns the houses, for the most part they're going to be very similar. Housing would be assigned most likely by the company, so different families of different sizes might be able to sort of argue their way into something more unique, something a little bit bigger if they needed it. Also, supervisors might be entitled to a larger house, more space, more of a yard.
Yeah, I particularly like these because they have more decorative features than the straight row houses do. You see they've got arched windows and arched doors, whereas the row houses don't. But the sewer pipe, which say sewer Gothic, as it was called, makes it really stand out. I assume that these were for some of the higher people in the company. So there's just a group of them along here.
There used to be 5 of them.
Behind me is a really unique church. It's the Haydenville Church, built out of the Haydenville tile. So that's going to be all local clay that you see there, making the really beautiful designs.
I found this fascinating, that the town basically was salesman samples, that they would bring customers to Haydenville to see how their tile and brick and everything they manufacture, all their ceramics could be used. This house behind us, it's built of silo tile.
Yes.
So if you want to see what a silo tile building would look like, this is an example of it.
There were 17 or so built in about 1917. We had a couple over by the Hocking River, and we had this one, and then the rest were clear over at the mines.
So one of the problems with a company town is when the company leaves, when the company folds, when there's massive layoffs, there's no longer a town to be supported. There's no more company store. The people who lived there either don't have their homes anymore because they're not working for the company anymore, or if the land has been sold off to individuals, there's no real reason to stick around. And unfortunately, that's part of what happened in this area. This was partially due to the rise of mechanization.
Haydenville was considered the last of the company towns. The Natco company sold off the houses in 1964. That time there were 112 houses, 8 of which were doubles. From an industrial standpoint, Peter Hayden definitely was one of the founders of Columbus. He had his fingers in everything, and he had businesses in Chicago, Detroit, San Francisco, New Jersey. He was in banking. He was involved with streetcars. He made cannonballs during the Civil War. His bank, the Hayden Clinton Bank, is the oldest building on Capitol Square in downtown Columbus, and yet, we don't really recognize his name anymore.
Now, he was also well loved here. He was very good to his people, and for a good, hard day's work, he gave them a good living.
The inscription on this beautiful window, which was dedicated to Peter Hayden, reads, "So he fed them according to the integrity of his heart and guided them by the skillfulness of his hands." I think that really is kind of a testament to the legacy of Peter Hayden in this community.
So I think the legacy of Peter Hayden is alive and well in the people who are still in these towns. As we were researching the book, we met a lot of people who are really devoted to this area. Maybe their grandfathers or great-grandfathers worked here, their families from here, they love it here.
Plaque.
National Register plaque.
Towns like this really need something new to come in. Tourism, I think, could be wonderful in this area. It's a gorgeous area. So what Haydenville really needs is another woman or man like Peter Hayden, someone who sees the potential value, sees what could happen here, and then really makes it happen.
Next, how did Little Oklahoma end up in Ohio?
And we'll also answer a viewer's questions about Minerva Park.
It's a little-known neighborhood on the city's south side, but it's beloved by the people who lived there.
And inevitably, the first question is, why is a neighborhood in Columbus, Ohio called Little Oklahoma?
We're standing in Little Oklahoma, which is kind of a strange name for Columbus, and we're going to investigate how it came to be called that. What's kind of interesting about this area is it's so intimately tied with Southside Columbus. This is the area where people came to find work in Columbus. So we're going to be going on a little adventure through the neighborhood. We're going to see some of the sites that are here, and we're going to find out more about its history. I'm here with Robin Watson from the Far South Side Area Commission, and I'm hoping she's going to tell me a little bit more about this neighborhood. What are its joys and what are its challenges?
Well, the joys of the neighborhood is that, one, it is a very tight-knit neighborhood here.
Okay.
They are very resourceful people. There's not a lot of lines for assistance, things like that. Most of them are tradespeople. Some of the challenges are, this is a cloistered community, but I think for a very good reason. If you go to High Street and you look north on 104, there is a sign that says, "Welcome to the South Side of Columbus," where there can only be one South Side. So if you're standing south of that, are you still in the city of Columbus? Are you still a part of that?
So it's kind of part identity too,
Yes.
and recognition that you're here.
Yes.
Before this was community, was it mostly farmland as far as you know?
Most of the far south side was.
Okay.
Story has it that this area was actually founded by people who were leaving the Dust Bowl.
So that would put it in the 1930s then, right?
It would.
And do you know anyone personally or families, or is this a story that's been passed down?
It's a story that's been passed down. I know a lot of residents that have lived here a while.
Even from them, from longtime residents?
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to find a resident who has lived here long enough that could help us find some Dust Bowl connection. I found Jack Seymour. When you were a kid, where did you go for ice cream or confectionaries or anything like that?
Max's was our store.
I knew you'd remember
Max's
something.
Scarberry was our store. He ran a bill for people and you could pay him on Friday. He
Just
helped
really
a lot,
old-fashioned.
He helped a lot of the families get through.
Okay.
And then there was another little one on the other side of Deering on the corner of Pornoff and 5th Street.
Oh, okay. Have you heard the name Little Oklahoma?
Yes, yes, we grew up here. I have family on 7th Street.
Okay.
My great-grandmother, she lived
Okay.
into her 90s. Two big families is what I remember them saying that were actually in the neighborhood
Okay.
and started it. Great granny, like I said, she was in her 90s.
And that was the story she told you?
Yeah.
I'm meeting up with Angela O'Neill and Aaron O'Donovan from the Columbus Metropolitan Library to see what the archives might say about Little Oklahoma.
What we know about the Dust Bowl is that it's an area in the United States around Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle that experienced just a horrific drought between 1934 and 1937. Over 2 million people left that area of the country. About 10% of them went to California, the rest scattered all across the US. So it's plausible that some of those people could have ended up in Columbus. So what we wanted to do was take a look at the census and see if we can show that. This first batch of records is the census from 1930. Why we wanted to look at 1930 was to show who was living here at that time before the Dust Bowl, and then we want to look at 1940 to see what's changed. What we see in the 1930 census, it'll tell us the place of birth of the individual and both their parents. We see a lot of people from Ohio, some West Virginia folks here, some Tennessee, there's even an Alabama, lots of folks from Kentucky as we scroll through these pages. So we're really seeing a neighborhood that has a strong Appalachian influence and even a Southern influence. So we would expect to see, with the Dust Bowl happening in that 1934 to 1937 time period, we'd expect in 1940 to see these people, but a lot of folks from that Oklahoma region as well.
Okay.
An interesting quirk of the census is that in the 1940 census, because there was so much movement happening around the United States at that time, they added a question to the census. It asks, what was your residence on April 1st, 1935? So that's the column where we should see Oklahoma, right? In this column, unfortunately, we see a whole list of people here listed as same place. We did find one person who was listed as born in Oklahoma, Cecil Sword, right here on the documents. Unfortunately, though, because we have that question about where were you in 1935, he was in the same place. So he was in Columbus in 1935. So other than that, not a lot of evidence for a significant movement of folks from Oklahoma.
Directly from Oklahoma.
Directly from Oklahoma to Ohio. The next piece of information, which we do not have, is the 1950 census. The 1950 census will come out in 2020, so we'll know the answer then. The next step is to look at land records.
Yeah, the first thing I wanted to find out about this Little Oklahoma section is actually, what was it actually called? South High Gardens was actually platted in 1922, and it was developed by a man named Roy Emerson Betts. My first natural reaction was, okay, was the Betts family from Oklahoma,
Right.
the people who founded it. And I looked up the Betts family and I saw no Oklahoma connection there.
Okay.
I also saw a lot of places around the area were named after the Fornah family. Again, I wanted to see if that was an Oklahoma connection, and I did not see an Oklahoma connection there. I was looking at this family called the Marcos family, who owned a little barbecue restaurant, and just by chance I wanted to see, okay, where were they from? It says originally they were from Greece, which makes sense. The last name Marcos is Greek. And I was looking on there and they said they've been in Ohio for a while. And when I was on Ancestry.com, it suggested a record for Peter Marcos that there was a naturalization record from Oklahoma. And what I did is I pulled that record up and found his naturalization record in the year 1909. What I ended up doing was going to the city directories. I did find his brother, Gus Marcos, was here in 1907, but I did not see Peter Marcos here until 1909, which would have been after this naturalization. Now, I'm not for certain if this is the same Peter Marcos, but it did take me aback because there was an Oklahoma connection out of the blue when I wasn't looking for it.
So what we know about the Marcos family so far is that they're Greek in origin, but there seems to be some movement through Oklahoma, at least by one family member, and that they set up a little barbecue on South High.
And the city directories, it later becomes a confectionery store or a candy shop.
Well, we may have found the Oklahoma connection.
And nothing is definitive, but certainly the evidence is pointing more towards this story rather than the Dust Bowl story of the 1930s.
Now that we have found a possible Oklahoma connection with the Marcos family, I've tracked down a descendant of Gus and Peter, Steve Marcos, and I'm meeting him at Shade's Restaurant to learn more.
My grandfather and great uncle came from Greece here in 1902. They moved to Indianapolis. They worked at the railroad for $5 a month, and that was up through around 1905, 1906, and then in 1910 they opened this store with a man named John Stamatis. And he's pictured here with my grandfather, and along with a guy named Anthony Zanettis, which was the founder of Anthony Thomas Candy Company.
What a small world.
This was my great uncle, and this was at inside that building. So
Oh, wow.
this was at the corner of Parkwood and East Broad Street, where East High School sits today. Then they settled down here in 1924. They settled in the big house that's across the street here. In 1925, this building was built.
This building we're in.
This building was here, the original part of it. These pictures are from around 1940 when they were making High Street from 2-lane to 4-lane. My great uncle died in 1953, and in 1954, my dad opened up what we called Three Trees Drive-In, and then Dad leased to a guy named Jack Shade. So it's been Shade since 1967.
When did you hear that this was called Little Oklahoma?
Well, you know, growing up, I had heard it. I mean, I've always known it was Little Oklahoma. I talked to a family friend named Milt Duco. He gave me the rundown about how this became Little Oklahoma and people moving from the Dust Bowl area. He was told that Columbus was known as the gateway to the east. So a lot of people came through this way, and they found work here, and they found cheap housing. I asked Milt, where he had learned this stuff, and he said, well, he said, I learned that from your dad.
Wonderful. This is what we know so far. We have found one connection between a member of the Marcos family and Oklahoma, but we have not as yet seen a large migration of people from Oklahoma and the Dust Bowl into the South Side neighborhood known as Little Oklahoma. We know that the 1950 census will be released sometime in the future, and that might provide us with more answers. But in the meantime, it's important to keep hearing family stories to see what connections we can make. So if you happen to have stories about Little Oklahoma and would like to share them, please do so on Columbus Neighborhood's Facebook page.
Are you curious? Curious about Columbus? Well, you've come to the right place. In our Curious C-Bus segment, we ask viewers to submit a question about Columbus that we then investigate.
In this installment, we head to a small community that used to be a getaway for people in the big city.
Curious C-Bus is WOSU's project where you submit your questions about our region, its people, or its history, and we assign a reporter or producer to investigate it. This week's question comes to us from Ryan Hudson. Ryan lives just a few blocks away from Minerva Park, a village on Columbus's northeast side. Ryan says Minerva Park doesn't look or feel like any of the surrounding neighborhoods and wrote to us to find out more about its history. Today, Minerva Park is a quiet residential neighborhood, but over 100 years ago, it was home to a roller coaster, a water slide, and a casino where gambling was prohibited. The history of Minerva Park can really be traced to one man, Gary Waldo Meeker. At a public meeting in 1891, a group of Westerville residents complained about spotty train service into Columbus. At that meeting, Meeker suggested an electric rail line with service to the city. 4 years later, Meeker was secretary and treasurer of the Columbus Central Railway Company and piloted the first train car south from Westerville. In an effort to boost ridership, Meeker thought up the idea of an amusement park along the line that would draw visitors up from the city. So on July 13th of 1895, Minerva Park opened its gates. The park was named after Minerva Shippard, the wife of the railway company's president, John Shippard. At the time, 15 cents would get you a round-trip ticket and admission to the park. The 150-acre park was a scenic getaway, perfect for a quiet picnic by the lake, but also included attractions such as a roller coaster, a bowling alley, a merry-go-round, a nature museum, a pony track, and a small zoo with monkeys and bears. But the park's biggest draw was its casino. Despite being called a casino, games of chance were prohibited and no alcohol was served. But the building did house a 2,500-seat theater that staged elaborate productions and hosted some of the biggest vaudeville acts of the day. The success of the park was short-lived, however. By 1900, the newer Olentangy Park opened up in a much more convenient location just a few miles north of downtown. Minerva Park couldn't compete and was shuttered in 1902, after just 7 seasons in operation. After that, the park fell into disrepair and became a graveyard for old streetcars. Before his death in 1917, Gary Waldo Meeker pleaded with city officials to preserve Minerva Park as a public resource, but that never came to be. The land remained quiet until 1927, when construction began and the Minerva Park subdivision was born. In order to preserve the neighborhood's character, homeowners incorporated it as a village in 1940. Those efforts ensured that the small lake that swimmers and boaters enjoyed over a century ago remains in Minerva Park today. Do you have a question for Curious C-Bus? Head to wosu.org/curious to submit your idea, vote on which question we should investigate next, and see what we've covered so far.
Thanks for being with us. And remember, you can catch all of our episodes on columbusneighborhoods.org. Plus, see our stories on the WOSU mobile app, and you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
We'll see you back here next week on Columbus Neighborhoods.
In the bright sunlight of my hometown city, there's a cool hot spot on the corner for coffee. Through the seasons of fashions pass by on the streets where I live. There are all kinds of places and wide open spaces. A park full of roses puts a smile on our faces. Uptown, downtown, we all ride on the streets where I live. And there's a constant thrill in this Midwest city. The summer sun will bring the child out in you. Whatever you like,
Oklahoma, where the waving wheat can sure smell sweet when the wind comes right behind the rain. Oh.
Support for Columbus Neighborhoods is provided by
At American Electric Power, we've been proud sponsors of WOSU Public Media for many years and strong supporters of our headquarters city here in Columbus, both downtown and in neighborhoods like yours.
State Auto Insurance Companies, transforming to become a digital provider of auto, home, and business insurance. And for nearly 100 years, committed to the people and neighborhoods of Central Ohio. State Auto. The Columbus Foundation. Smart philanthropy for a smart city. ColumbusFoundation.org. Bailey Cavalieri. Your relationship with your law firm doesn't need to be complicated, it just needs to be right. CODA. Keeps our community moving forward. Falgren Moortime Marketing and Communications. Think wider. Ohio Health focuses on you and your family with a mission to improve the health of our communities. Women in Philanthropy at Ohio State, changing lives by giving together. And by contributions from these and other Columbus area families who support WOSU. Thank you.